This is the second video in a series of 7 that I'm going to put together. For me, for a lot of years, I had no clue, but I was living the low energy and testosterone lifestyle. And you could be too, and you can fix that if you haven't left it too late. And before we get to that place about connecting all the dots and how you can fix this once and for all, this is an excerpt from the very first video in this series about the symptoms of low T. Now, just remember, this isn't your fault and you can fix this. We were born into this mess. This is Dr. Ken Berry, and he's just going to speak to the symptoms and signs of low T.
But just focusing on low testosterone, yeah, the classic symptoms are fatigue, no get up and go, no drive, no drive anywhere, no drive at the office, no drive, in the yard or the garden, no drive in the bedroom. Just you don't really care about doing a good job at anything. You just kind of you get by to get along. Weight gain is very common. You're tired all the time, yet you don't really sleep very deeply during the night. Belly fat is a huge, even if you're not overweight, you're still going to have a little belly pooch. It's very classic. You can start to develop man boobs, which I have a YouTube video. You know, that video is
That was me. Yeah.
2 million views or something, because having man boobs is so common in the world today that there are over 2 million men who've watched my video on YouTube about it, if not 3. All those things are symptoms of low testosterone. And there's a long list of prescription medications that you might be taking from your doctor, your doctor that you trust, that could actually be plummeting your testosterone levels. I've got a YouTube video about medications that lower testosterone.
So the point is that there's a lot of things that are crushing our testosterone and our energy. And we can get it back if you haven't left it too late. So in the caption below, there's a link to that other video where Dr. Ken and I spoke about it. And the theme of that video was insulin resistance. When you've got insulin resistance, and it's estimated that up to 80% of the population has some form of insulin resistance, your energy and your testosterone is clamped down, and you get used to it. So what we're going to do over the next 6 videos is unlock your body's ability to start making more energy and more testosterone to tap into your body fat. So the very first video in this series is what I call the EEDC blueprint. So there's a lot of chemicals that are coming into our body, and they've been shown now in multiple studies to disrupt your hormones and your energy. So that's what we're going to do here today. And there's a link below to go grab my comprehensive elimination plan that's free. And I don't want your email or anything like that. I want you to get to a place where you're starting to unlock your body. Okay. So if you find these videos useful, consider liking and sharing this so other dudes just like you can get their fire back. So this one, we're going to do the blueprint. Then we're going to get back on this road trip and go up, rebuild and thrive drive into this second video series here, genetics and food sensitivities. And this is huge, getting this one right. So we're going to talk about food sensitivities in the next video and genetics. Then the video after that, number 3, F and C grade foods. We want to move away from those foods and start selecting A and B grade foods. Then we're going to get back on rebuild and thrive drive and go down hormonal balance place. So protein requirements, how much protein, what kind of protein, when. Then we're going to have a look at the 5th video in this series about balancing the 5 hormonal systems. Then the final video in this series is what scientists call proper, precise circadian entrainment. So in the morning, you can switch on your hormones and optimize your energy throughout the day. So just to show you what we're going to do in these videos in this 6th series, how to build muscle. So I've worked with Dr. Anthony J. Now, Dr. J did a 5-year PhD on hormones and cholesterol. He worked at the Mayo Clinic and he's done genetics for the last 12 years. And he's shown me how to put this together. So we're going to talk about how we can build muscle and get to this place here. Now, for me, I'm 51 on the 12th of July, which isn't too far away. I'm recording this today on the 30th of the 6th, 2022. And that's where I am. Now, I don't count calories. I eat to satiety. And you can do this too. So we're going to talk about how to build muscle and protein requirements. So how much is enough and when to eat it. We're also going to explore genetically how testosterone is made and how you can boost that. So some other things we're going to talk about are testosterone inhibition. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 things that we have to take off the table to boost energy and testosterone. And there is a shit ton of things that inhibit and keep testosterone down. Everything that I put in and on my body, I put through what I call the androgen pathway test. So we're going to talk about that in future videos. Now, Dr. J, my mentor, is a genetic expert. And what I've come to understand is that we've got what I call, and don't worry about this now, we'll talk about this in future videos. We've got heavy P2s, which will take a bit of time to fix so you can start producing more energy and testosterone. But these light P2s, we can take them off the table instantly. So that's what we're going to do in the very first video here. And there is a formula for testosterone. It's what I call the difference between the signature of quitting and also the signature of effort and winning. So when you understand all the concepts that I'll present to you over the next 6 videos, you're going to be thinking to yourself, well, shit, I can get this right, finally. And I'm going to give you worksheets and also steps to be able to do that. But it's going to take a little bit of time to get to that place. And we're also going to talk about this mess here. There's 5 things that steal your androgens. We're talking about the 3 main androgens there. Hang on a second. We've got DHEA. We've also got testosterone. We've also got dihydrotestosterone. So those 5 things there that I'll walk you through on future videos will take your androgens, it'll go through an enzyme called aromatase and turn it into this here, estrogen. That is not helpful. So we don't want to do that. So what we're going to explore here today are these chemicals, these man-made chemicals. And what I'm going to do is unpack it very quickly for you. And then you can make an intelligent decision about, are these chemicals right for me? Do I want these chemicals coursing through my veins, my artery, my heart, my testicles, my sperm cells, my brain cells, my eyes? Are these chemicals useful for me? Or is the science now very clear that they cause all of that, as you see on screen there? So we're going to go through that. But one of the most insidious things that they cause is insulin resistance. And if you've watched that other video where Dr. Ken Berry and myself speak about insulin resistance and how it just completely makes us feel like shit and crushes our testosterone, if these chemicals do in fact cause insulin resistance, well, you know, we should eliminate those little bastards from our body. So with that said, what I want to do now, you're not going to like hearing this, but sometimes we have to hear the hard truth. And this is a warning from Dr. Ken Berry on the very first video in this series where Dr. Ken and I spoke. So listen to this.
Absolutely. It's often too late by the time you've become financially comfortable.
Yeah.
Very often you've done so much damage to every tiny artery in your body that you're now stuck with permanent erectile dysfunction or permanent forgetfulness or permanent insomnia, permanent shortness of breath, chest pain, right? Gut issues.
Yeah.
You've done so much damage. Some of it can't be taken back. And that's why I'm so active on social media, constantly reaching out and trying to help people, because once it's too late, you might regain a little bit of that function, but it's never going to be like it once was. And it's never going to be like it could have been. And that's very sad if you think about it, that somebody's basically handicapped for the rest of their life, physically or mentally or emotionally, because of bad dietary decisions that they made for the first few decades of their life that they didn't realize were bad decisions because they had never been trained properly.
Exactly. All right. So it's a hard truth, isn't it? It's hard to hear, but you can fix this if you haven't left it too late. Now, as you can see on screen there, adverse effects of low testosterone and also DHEA. But let's focus in on, down the bottom here. So the penis, the prostate, and the testes, it's not pretty, is it? They scale down and atrophy. Libido, erection, loss. So this isn't our fault. We were born into this mess, as Dr. Ken and I spoke about in the very first video in this series. It's been happening for quite some time. My mentor, Dr. J, again, 5-year PhD in hormones, he crawled through all the data all the way back to the 1940s, and he discovered that for a man my age, I'm basically 51, they had over double the testosterone they do today. So on screen there, in 1987-89, 550, around about the average. Now, 2002 to 2004, it's plummeted down to around about here, around about 400. So before I just speak about these two images here, this is back when I first met Dr. J and we first started working together. So check out this.
And my age, I'm 49, so I guess mine should be around about 800 if I'm correct.
Yeah, the most doctor, if you get below 500, I think it's a big problem. Better fix it, like immediately.
Yeah. So when you hear somebody that's done a PhD 5 years on sex hormones and he says, if it gets below 500, big problem, better fix it immediately, you pay attention, and I certainly did. And as you can see here, when testosterone gets below that 500 number, which is about 18 millimoles in Australia or the UK, 2018, you can see that the percentage of obese adults, we're getting fat, tired, lazy, and apathetic, as Dr. Ken spoke to. But when it's over that 500, we were still relatively lean back in 1990. So as you can see, it's not our fault. We were born into this mess. Testosterone has just been declining and declining. Now, another person I spoke to is Dr. Amy B. Keelan. She's an MD doctor. And I spoke to her in 2020, and this is what she said about men with low T.
Increased problems with mood disorders, depression, insomnia, anxiety, all of that goes up as you have lower testosterone levels. And then certainly sexual dysfunction. So everything from low libido to low sperm counts and infertility are all associated with low testosterone. So it's not something that we should just brush off as being like, it's no big deal. Like, it's kind of a big deal. It actually means that our men are getting less and less healthy, and they're more and more likely to suffer from some kind of disease problem.
So as you can see, she's an MD doctor, and she says now that's not something we should brush off. But unfortunately, we go to our doctor and they don't want to hear about it. They don't want to measure your testosterone. So there's lots of research now on testosterone. It's heavily researched now, as you can see on screen there. Sexual and non-sexual symptoms of testosterone deficiency can negatively affect the quality of your life, cause considerable general health concerns. So it feels like for a lot of men that they're on the Titanic, sinking ship. So what testosterone is going to do for you is what you see on screen there. And I'll just play another excerpt from that very first video in this series with Dr. Ken.
Mark, you know this, but many of the listeners may not know. There are millions of men around the world, millions who are either pre-diabetic or type 2 diabetic, and they have no idea. Literally do not know this, even though they're damaging. They're increasing their risk of erectile dysfunction, of heart attack, of stroke, of blindness, of every organ in their body shutting down and ceasing to function. But since their doctor says, well, you're relatively skinny, Mark, you've got a little belly pooch, but that's it. No big deal. We're not going to check any blood work on you. And you feel like shit. You got no energy. You got no get up and go. You're gaining weight. You feel like crap. But your doc says, well, you're skinny, therefore you're healthy, and they send you on your way. Every guy with any of these symptoms that we talk about, you need to go to your doctor and politely, respectfully demand those 5 tests, and then also ask for a free and a total testosterone while you're at it, especially if you're having fatigue and no drive, no get up and go.
So if that's you, you can fix it. That's the amazing thing, but it's going to take time. It's not a fucking cakewalk. It can take 6 weeks if you're a younger gentleman, but if you're an older gentleman, it can take 6+ months to get to that place. And that's what it took for me. But I'm 50 and I've never felt better. And that's what I want for you. I want to get you to that place. That's what these 6 videos are about. So let's start exploring the problems with these chemicals. All right, and before we get there, I just want to show you that on the next video, we're going to talk about food sensitivities, which is huge, right? If you want your testosterone up and your energy up, we have to fix that. But we're also going to speak to genetics. Again, my mentor, Dr. J, is a genetic expert. So it's an amazing time to be alive. You can get your shit together. You can get your edge back. You can get that lean muscular body, but you've got to get it right. You don't need fancy testosterone boosters or anything like that. You just have to implement lifestyle changes. It really is that simple, and start eating real food. And I'll explain what that is in future videos. So let's have a look at these chemicals. As you can see here, very low dose can have complete suppression of dihydrotestosterone. Now, dihydrotestosterone is a form of testosterone. So you got DHEA, which is a weak androgen. You've got testosterone, which is the one we all know about. But dihydrotestosterone is 10 times more potent than testosterone. This is something we do not want suppressed. In a podcast with Professor Andrew Huberman, neuroscientist at Stanford, he said that he was taking a compound, I'll show you what that is in a moment, that suppressed dihydrotestosterone. And as you can see here, there was nothing new in his diet apart from this compound, and he said it was remarkable. And I'll just quote what he said here. I mean, I felt like garbage, and it was kind of actually frightening to experience the sharpness of that cliff on the suppression of just that part of the testosterone pathway. So, it's in personal care products. This shit is everywhere, but it's also suppressing testosterone, as you'll soon learn. And testosterone lowers fear and anxiety, and it increases courage, confidence, and optimism. And Huberman also said in many podcasts that it makes effort feel good. So how do you know when you got testosterone up in the right levels? How do you feel? You want to put in the work at the gym? Does effort feel good? These are the questions you need to start asking. So that compound over here, they went on to say in that podcast that lots of plant compounds, polyphenols, can do it. And one of the biggest ones that you see is like turmeric, okay? So this is the testosterone pathway. So when you make your testosterone, it's either going to go to dihydrotestosterone, which is what we want, or it's going to go to the female hormones here, estrone, estriol, estradiol, which is what we don't want. And again, on future videos, I will reveal how to stop that from happening. We don't want our hard-earned testosterone going to estrogen. So some more research here. As you can see, if you start having a look at the research, it's just like, shit, I can see how this is happening now. So scientists have had to classify all these chemicals as obesity genes, like obesogens, diabetogens, cardiovascular disruptors, insulin resistance, glucose intolerance, dyslipidemia, hyperinsulinemia. I mean, it's just a mess. Fatty liver, dyslipidemia. And this has been happening for quite some time. The Endocrine Society put out a warning in 2009. The system, they didn't care too much about it. They put out the second warning in 2014, and again, still, not much was discussed. As you can see on this research paper, they're estrogenic and anti-androgenic. The androgens, DHEA, testosterone, dihydrotestosterone, carcinogenic. They're also highly inflammatory. So another little excerpt from that first video in this series with myself and Dr. Ken Berry.
Time. Yeah. And let me say this, Mark, because I think it's important. The average guy, the average teenage boy, the average 20-something, 30-something-year-old man, they're going to beat themselves up. It's never going to occur to them that it's their diet and that it's the plastic that all their foods come in. They're not. And so, because even if you're not a Puritan, we still, in modern society, in Western society, we have all these puritanical beliefs. You're a glutton. You're a sloth. You're a loser. You suck. You're lazy. For years, I thought I was just lazy.
Yep.
Right? I thought I'm just a loser. Lazy. I need to grow up. I need to get my shit together. And that wasn't it at all. I had hyperinsulinemia. I was developing prediabetes. I was chronically inflamed. I felt like shit every day. I wasn't lazy. And now that I've corrected all those things at 53 years of age,
50.
I'm more productive now at 53. I have more energy, more get up and go, more motivation, more ability to just stick to stuff than I had at 23 or 33. When I was 23 and 33, I thought I was just a lazy loser. I did not realize that I was poisoning my own body and my own mind with the food that I was given to eat or that I chose to eat, and the plastic wrap and the plastic everything that all of my food came in. I had no idea that was what was wrong with me. I was blaming myself instead of blaming the true culprit, which was my food and the packaging my food came in. It's such a devious trap that we're, as young men, that you're caught in, because you blame it 100% on yourself and your failings, and you lack this and you lack this and you should be better at this, because that's kind of how we were brought up. That's how we were raised, that if something doesn't go right, it's your fault. And sometimes that is true, but when it comes to these things, that's not true. You've been misled by the big food manufacturers, by the big pharma manufacturers. And not only have they misled you, but the more devious step is they misled your mom and dad.
So, it's a bit of a mess. Now, as you can see here, insulin resistance, you lower testosterone secretion in men. Now, over time, that leads to that bullshit that we're told that as men, as we age, energy and testosterone comes down. If you think back to that slide that I showed with Dr. my mentor, Dr. Anthony J, who did the PhD in hormones, men back in the 1940s had over double the testosterone that they do today. So we were born into this mess. As you can see on screen here, these EDCs, endocrine disrupting chemicals, produce insulin resistance. So these chemicals are just taking us out. And if you want to go check out that video with me and Dr. Ken Berry speaking about this, there's should be a link below here on YouTube to do that. But as you can see here, it's very insidious, because when insulin is up too high, and that's what insulin resistance means. It means your body, not you, but your fucking body can't tap into its own fat reserves. So what does that mean? You always have cravings. You're always looking for food. You just don't have a lot of energy. And to make matters worse, you've got low T. So you experience more anxiety, more fear, less courage, less optimism. So that's why we need to get T back. Now, another insidious part of all of this is what you see on screen there. Let me walk you through it. So when we've got elevated glucose or insulin, and that's what insulin resistance is all about, we produce less growth hormone. In this book here by sleep researcher and neuroscientist Matthew Walker, PhD, he says this, and please pay careful attention to this. Without growth hormone replenishing the lining of your blood vessels called the endothelium, they will be slowly shorn and stripped of their integrity. So this leads to ruptured vessels, atherosclerosis, heart attack, but also strokes, the microvasculature in your brain. Now, more research here. So when you've got insulin resistance, you've got hypertension, high blood pressure. And as you can see on screen there, I had high blood pressure. I was on medication for that. And as Dr. Ken said, this brings down your testosterone and keeps it clamped down. Insulin can cause increased blood pressure via several mechanisms. And I won't drive into how that happens, but you can see here now that when we've got insulin resistance, we're just completely busted as men. And they prescribe drugs to fix the high blood pressure when all we need to do is just a few things that you'll learn about in the next 6 videos. So you can finally get off all these medications. You can finally bring up your energy consistently and your testosterone consistently. Now, one of the biggest problems that we've got comes from this book here. And I should have a link for this book below. It's called Why My Brain Isn't Working. So when we're a lot younger, we can tolerate these chemicals a lot better. But we get to a certain place where we've got loss of chemical tolerance. So these chemicals just absolutely crush us. So what you might know, and I've got this in the elimination plan, we wake up in the morning and we start getting a small dose of these chemicals throughout the day. So the analogy I like to give to the people that I help is that it's just like you have a beer first thing in the morning, but the beer is the chemicals. Then as you progress through the day, they just build up and up and up. Cortisol goes through the roof. It clamps your testosterone. You feel like garbage. So you get to the end of the day and you're like, fucking, I've just had enough. This sucks. I'm a loser. I'm no good. I suck. And you mightn't say that to your family or anyone else, but you feel it. And this is the big problem. It's not us. These chemicals are a big piece of the problem. And as you can see here on screen, these chemicals, the ones we're talking about, are parabens and phthalates, serious health problems, including infertility, testicular dysgenesis, obesity, asthma, allergies, cancer. It's a goddamn mess, and they're everywhere. Now, actually, before I move on there, what I've just clicked on is something that Dr. J and I work on together, which is genetics. Right, and we'll speak about this in the next video, but that there is my genetics. I'm very sensitive to these chemicals, cleaning chemicals and pesticides. So I've got to be extremely careful so that they don't take me out. Now, you might be thinking, where are these chemicals? And we're going to start exploring that. But if you just want to grab the elimination plan below, there's a link for that. It's on my website. I don't want your email. I don't want anything. I just want you to fucking fix this mess once and for all. Get these chemicals out of your body. So they're in non-stick fry pans. Now this one here, PFOAs, there's a whole class of these chemicals. They cause inflammation, oxidative stress in the liver, and they inhibit fat oxidation. So when inflammation is up, guess what else is up? Cortisol. So pro-inflammatory cytokines are activators of the HPA axis. So this is the thing that says make cortisol. So you produce more and more cortisol. Now, when cortisol is up too high, you feel like garbage. And one of the things that cortisol will do is it'll take your testosterone and it'll aromatize it into estrogen. So we're becoming estrogen dominant. So that's a pretty nasty mess. Now, more research here. These chemicals are endocrine disrupting. Well, we can certainly see that now, but they're cytotoxic, genotoxic, reproductive toxicity, dioxin-like effects, which is pretty terrible, and neurotoxicity. Okay, so what do you think? Are these chemicals, should they be in our body, coursing through our veins, our heart, our artery, our testicles, our sperm, our brain cells, our eyes? Or maybe, just maybe, we should get them out of our body? That's the question you need to ask yourself. And they're kind of everywhere. They're in personal care products. They're in plastic bottles. You just can't hide from them. And as you can see here, this research paper was published in 2007, and they went back 10 years, and they found that a lot of these chemicals are estrogen-like, anti-androgenic, and thyroid disrupting. So there goes your metabolism. And where are these chemicals hiding? They're everywhere. They're in medical devices, pharmaceuticals, food products, artificial grass. They're just absolutely everywhere. And the most concerning thing, I think, is that they've found these chemicals now in polar bears. They've leached into the waterways, into the oceans, and polar bears eat, fish that come from the ocean. So the polar bears have got this shit now. So another important question we need to ask ourselves is, vegetables, are they healthy? Well, as you'll soon see, not so much. What you see these people spraying the plants with is pesticides. And this is what pesticides do. So let me just play this video from my mentor, Dr. J. And this is a chemical, just one pesticide they use, called atrazine.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, atrazine is got to be up there, depending if it's legal, right? And in Europe, it's totally illegal. 0 is allowed in the drinking water. In America, I mean, they allow 3,000 nanograms per liter in our drinking water.
What does that actually mean in the body?
Yeah, exactly. So our natural estrogen is about 20 for men. Wow. Yeah. 20 nanograms per liter.
Right. 20 nanograms per liter, up to maybe 60 or 80.
Really crazy about that. If you have a frog, if you put a male frog, in 300 nanograms per liter of drinking water, and again, just put 300 of atrazine in there, excuse me. Yeah. That male frog turns into a female. And
wow. I mean,
and we're drinking 3,000,
3,000.
So clearly you have to filter your drinking water. I mean,
yeah, so we're supposed to have about 20 to maybe 60, and we're drinking 3,000 estrogen-like mimics. And that completely shuts down testosterone production pretty fast. And some more research here. Phthalates induce testicular mitochondrial dysfunction. So the mitochondria are a necessary step to produce testosterone. Necessary step. And they're the mitochondria are the place where you produce the vast energy in your body. And they're the only place you can burn body fat, but also fat that comes in through nutrition. So if these little bastards, these mitochondria are being taken out, well, is that helpful? So right here, this is what happens to your mitochondria over time. So when cortisol, stress, inflammation become chronic, scientists say that it creates a morphology in the mitochondria called fission, resulting in small, damaged mitochondria. Now think about that. You got damaged mitochondria. What's going to happen to your testosterone? What's going to happen to your energy? What's going to happen to your fat burning to keep you lean and muscular? So this is what happens to your mitochondria. They become damaged and small. Now, the analogy I like to give people that I help is that your mitochondria have turned into that beat up 4-cylinder engine But the beautiful thing is, in about 3 weeks, you can reverse that through a process called mitochondrial biogenesis, and you can have brand new V8 engines to make a lot more testosterone, burn through your body fat, and produce a lot more energy. So how it all plays out is like this. So when you want to burn your body fat, you've got to mobilize the fat. How do you do that? Hormones. The circadian rhythm plays into it, and also acute stress, good stress, not cortisol stress, but good stress. Then once you mobilize it, you've got to transport it to burn it, and that's how we transport it. Now, the only thing that's going to shut that down are these inhibitors here. So we now know that these endocrine disruptors inhibit. If the body lacks vitamins and minerals, it slows down the pathway. So your fat burning becomes slower. Your energy goes down. Your testosterone production goes down. If you've got chronic stress, if your glucose or insulin is too high, or you've got hormonal resistances. Now, think about it. If you don't have a lot of energy now and you struggle to get the body fat off, your mitochondria, are like this, and they're probably kind of down here. They're grayed out. They don't work too efficiently. But the research is pretty clear on this now. In about 3 to 4 weeks, you can get them back up here in this zone, healthy, brand new mitochondria. But as you can see here, these chemicals, potent inhibitors of mitochondrial function, testicular mitochondrial dysfunction. Now, over here to the right of the screen, these parabens here, and they're everywhere. They use them in pharmaceuticals, cosmetics, foods, beverages, preservatives, right? They're taking out the mitochondria. And much more research, and I'm not going to go into the weeds here, but on that page to my website there, I've got this whole presentation as a download a PDF. So you can have a look at the research and actually click on these links and check it out for yourself. And, more research, it just goes on and on. Now, these mitochondria, they're powering you up. So if you've got early onset mitochondrial dysfunction, your energy goes down, your testosterone goes down, your ability to burn through body fat goes down. Now, the liver has specialized mitochondria that detoxify waste, including those chemicals. So you can see that when you get your mitochondria back, you start coming back. And, as we've been told now, it's normal, right? As we age, that energy comes down, testosterone comes down. Now, do you think it's a dumb idea to think that we can't get our energy and our testosterone back if critically, as Dr. Ken Berry said, we haven't left it too late? Now, we were born into this mess. Testosterone has been plummeting ever since the 1940s. And this is one of the nastiest chemicals of all. They call it the forever chemicals. And this is the destruction that it causes. These whole class of chemicals called PFASs, etc. Kidney damage. Shit. Oxidative stress and fibrosis. And fibrosis you can't recover from. Inflammation. It increases estrogen and plummets testosterone. Testicular dysgenesis and infertility. Obesity, asthma, and allergies. Cancer. Inhibits fat oxidation, and they last in your body for decades. So this is how it inhibits fat oxidation. So these PFOAs here inhibit fat oxidation in the liver. So what does that mean? Well, you go to your doctor and your triglycerides are up high. So you got thick, sludgy blood, your blood pressure's up, you feel like shit. So these chemicals can be causing that. Maybe not the whole cause of that, but they're certainly playing into it. Now, as I mentioned here, they can last in your body for decades, these forever chemicals. So they're going to take some time to get out. But the other chemicals, not in this class, you can get them out pretty damn quickly. So how do you do that? Well, you have to do what I call a fat reset. And this is kind of what a fat reset is, but let me just explain what that means, and I'll let Dr. J explain that. So when I first started working with Dr. J, this is what he said about these chemicals.
stored in your fat cells?
Oh yeah, all of them, a lot of them.
All of them. All right. So let me just create this scenario. So you've decided that you want to lose weight, and you've decided to do that. You start losing a bit of body fat, and all these estrogens are liberated into the fat cells. And I saw a research paper that you showed that some human fat cells have got, I think, 16,000, is that right, nanograms in the fat cells.
Oh,
So
yeah.
basically, you're flooding your blood with all this estrogen. What's going to happen then? Testosterone, free testosterone goes down. So your brain doesn't work properly. It's like, you lose your will to do the diet, and it makes muscle preservation harder. It makes fat loss harder. It makes everything harder. And you're fighting this, trying to lose weight, and you've got all these estrogens being flooded into the system. Is that a fair call?
Oh yeah, you got it exactly. I mean, I can tell you read the book carefully.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
did.
And that's a huge epiphany, even for me, when I was kind of going through this process and learning about this, writing the book. And the average life of a fat cell is 1.5 years, which they've discovered from these atomic bomb studies, that where people got exposed to radiation.
Right.
But they found fat cells that can survive in your body 10 years. And so if you're loading up these fat cells with all these estrogen chemicals, and so if you're loading the fat cells with estrogen chemicals, those chemicals are sitting in the cell saying, hey, hang on to fat, don't get rid of fat, right? So on top of all this problems with demotivation, with empathy, all that stuff you talked about with lower testosterone, which is true, then the fat cells also don't want to get rid of the fat. And then even if they do, they're, it's dumping more of this blood, and it's just a vicious cycle. So it causes a lot of weight gain plateaus, and that's where the sauna actually comes in. People look for practical ideas to accelerate this.
So think about that. As you can see on the screen there, 17,000 estrogen-like chemicals in the fat cells. So when you try and lose body fat, what happens? Those estrogen-like chemicals are liberated into the bloodstream and act like estrogen. That shuts down your testosterone. But your free testosterone that you need is aromatized and turned into estrogen. So it's a double whammy. That's why you feel like shit. You hit weight loss plateaus, you don't have energy, and you feel fatigued. So you've got to do what I call the extreme estrogen detox. And I'll explain what to do in future videos. But one of the things you can start doing now is sweating and getting out into the sun, because that triggers the liver's capacity to get rid of these chemicals fast. All right. Sweat and get out into the sun. That's your first step. But I'll put together that extreme estrogen detox in future videos. But this is what insulin resistance looks like. Now that's me there. Okay. I was doing everything right. I was eating what I thought was right. I was exercising, but I was tired, and I could just never get the abs. But when you finally get this right, get rid of these chemicals and everything else, that's what I maintain now effortlessly. I don't count calories. I eat to satiety. Now, sure, if you want to get really, really ripped, you might need to count calories, but it's just a complete waste of my time. And you can get to that place. But the first thing you've got to get rid of is insulin resistance. And Dr. Ken and I spoke about that on the first video in this series, and it should be linked below. But as you can see here, and these chemicals produce insulin resistance in and of themselves. You have lower testosterone, but it's insidious, because when insulin is up, you can't tap into your body fat. So as this research paper on PubMed clearly shows, these experiments show that elevations in insulin produce increased hunger, heightened perceived pleasantness of sweet tastes, and increased food intake. Now, this is my genetics. I'm carbohydrate intolerant. So does that mean I can't have carbs? I've got to go keto all the time? No, I eat carbs every single day, but I eat to my carbohydrate threshold. And you can do this too once. Critically, you get insulin sensitivity back. But until you get insulin sensitivity back, it's going to be very difficult to consume carbohydrates. and have optimal testosterone levels. Okay, so these PFOAs, scientists have even found these little bastards at the top of Mount fucking Everest. Your body is financing wars it can't pay for. So your energy and your testosterone goes down, cortisol and inflammation go up. And we can't hide from this shit. It's everywhere. Scientists have tested homes and offices, and in 100% of those air samples, we've got these chemicals. And in the extreme estrogen detox, I'll show you how to protect yourself from these chemicals. But as you can see, over decades and decades, ever since the 1920s, they've gone into our waterways, into the groundwater, they've gone into the oceans, and now they're in polar bears. And these chemicals are in all of these places. They're in fast food containers, these PFOAs and these other chemicals. So what this research paper says that up to 58% higher chemicals in fast food. Holy shit. And one of the worst things that can happen, now I've got 4 kids and they're going to have children of their own. These chemicals in the fetus, irreversible demasculinizing consequences. And the incidence of man boobs, as Dr. Ken was talking about, has increased exponentially 5 or 11-fold in the past 20 years. And I kind of had a bit of it. And, I struggled and struggled and struggled. And insulin resistance was a big piece of the puzzle there. So, you can get that body and you don't have to count calories. It's going to take a bit of time and a bit of hard work to get to that place, but you can do it. You got to get testosterone back. You got to fix your mitochondria, but you can do it. So the first thing you got to think about is every single day you've got a chemical fucking load. So they're in personal care products, they're in synthetic clothes, they're in fry pans, they're in your pantry, they're in air pollution, they're in F and C grade foods. And we'll talk about that in future videos. So you're getting a massive big load of chemicals. So the great news is that comprehensive elimination plan is on my website. The link is in the caption below. It's free. I don't want your email or anything. If you like what I'm about and you find this helpful, all I want you to do is just like and share it and join in the conversation below, because we were born into this mess and we can get our energy back. We can have our lean muscular physique and we can kick ass in life. But one of the biggest things we've got to get off the table now is this chemical load, because the dose makes the poison. All right. So on the next video, we're going to talk about genetics. And as you can see, my genetics isn't great. And I'll give you some examples about how testosterone is made and how simple it is to get your testosterone back if you haven't left it too late. But even if you have, you can still get a lot of function back. But the sad reality is, if you're like over 50 and 60 and you've left it too long, you may have to go on TRT. But you can certainly do that. But you don't want to. You want to see if you can get this right before you go on TRT. All right. Now, this is everything that shuts down testosterone production. So we've got sex steroids. So when estrogen or estrogen-like chemicals are in your body, you shut down. When testosterone is high optimal, you shut down, because you otherwise your body just keeps making more and more testosterone, and that's toxic. Too high testosterone can have irreversible consequences on your heart and your microvasculature. The second thing is inflammation. The third thing is stress, whether that's environmental stress, and that's exactly what this whole video is about. Cortisol too high, or hypoglycemia, so blood sugar crashing down to the floor. Drugs, well, clearly, and metabolism. So if your energy is up and down all over the place, you're never going to make a lot of testosterone. So that is it for this video. And on the next videos, we're going to talk about the formula for testosterone and the signature of quitting, versus the signature of effort and winning, and how to actually get that right. All right, legends. So if you like what I'm about and you want to watch the rest of these videos, if you haven't subscribed, consider doing that. And I'm going to be putting out these videos every single Monday. Okay, so every Monday, these videos will be released. So let's just go back over what we're going to do here. So what we've done right now is we've done this video here. So the next video, we're going to talk about food sensitivities and genetics. The third video, moving away from these F and C grade foods towards A and B grade foods, and what protein requirements on video number 4, and when to eat protein and how much and all of that, and getting balance to the 5 hormonal systems, and then finally circadian entrainment. So circadian entrainment is so key. It is so important, and it's overlooked. And the science is in, if we don't have what scientists call precise circadian entrainment, our hormones can't be switched on. In all of our cells, we got these clocks, and they are timed to the circadian rhythm. And it's very simple to get this right. And on that 6th and final video, I'm going to show you how to do that. So there it is. What we want to think about is moving away from this low energy and low testosterone lifestyle. So if you've liked this video, join in the conversation below, and I'll see you on the next video, number 2. And again, we're going to talk about food sensitivities and genetics.